All right, here with Mark Bocek. So, Mark, last time we saw you in the octagon, defeated Dustin Hazlett. What have you been up to since that fight?
It took about a week and a half off, and now back home in Toronto. Just started training again, boxing, wrestling, jiu-jitsu,
Right.
but nothing crazy, just once a day.
So you of course got that big fight coming up in Toronto, UFC 129. Ben Henderson. What are your thoughts on Ben?
It's a very tough fight, and it's
Yeah.
a very big opportunity. Ever since the fight was announced, I've been watching Ben, studying Ben. I'm happy. I'm really happy with the matchup. Former WEC champ. Had he won that fight with Pettis, he'd be fighting the winner of Edgar Maynard. After they rematched, of course. Aside from that one big head kick, though, the fight was pretty close. It wasn't
Right.
a one-sided beatdown or anything. You could even make an argument, hey, that guy didn't beat the champion, he should have retained his belt. It was a close fight. But when I see him, I see kind of like WEC's version of Clay Guida. I see a guy who's not a great striker, good wrestler, good cardio, hard to submit. With that being said, though, I'm taking him very seriously, but I don't think he has any area that just outshines mine. Not one. So I still see it as a very tough fight, tough test, but good style matchup.
Now, your jiu-jitsu, of course, really highly decorated. Do you always feel when you fight you're just like one takedown away from winning a fight?
I don't look at it that way. I wish they could all go like the last fight, but obviously they can't at that level. Like we saw with the Jim Miller fight. He's a very tough guy.
Yeah, for sure.
But I'd like to get the guy down, but I want to show a few different elements of my game. With Hazlett, I was even prepared to do it, but his back was against the cage, and maybe he wouldn't have been the smartest guy to do it with because he's so long and he's so rangy. When I studied him, he took a round off of Koscheck, so he's no joke. He dropped Koscheck as well. So I didn't want to risk too much, but I'm working on all the areas of my game. So if I even run into those guys, let's say I can't take down, I'm gonna be comfortable to strike. But with Henderson, even though I call out Soteropoulos, I think Henderson could even be a potentially tougher fight than Soteropoulos, just because maybe he's not as decorated in jiu-jitsu as George, and I'm comfortable against jiu-jitsu guys, but he's got better cardio than George and better wrestling.
And Henderson, you're fighting in Toronto, hometown. Are you going to be energized by the crowd? Do you feel it's going to give you a boost in your performance at all?
This is a fight I don't want to lose. It's awesome having the hometown behind you, but at the same time, I fought in Miller's hometown. I feel if you're better than the guy, it shouldn't affect the performance. Maybe if you don't believe in yourself so much and you're in the foreign territory, maybe it can mess with you a little bit. But I think if you're better than your opponent, it shouldn't really matter. But with that being said, it's always great to be the hometown boy. That place is going to go nuts.
And you're on quite a roll right now. Is your confidence level at an all-time high right now?
Yeah, it's good. It's good, but I look at the Hazlett fight as that's in the past. That's in the past. That's over, and now let's improve the weak areas. It's just killers from here on out, especially past Henderson. Not that I'm looking past Henderson. I'm just focused on Henderson. He's a killer. So I'm just trying to work on my weak areas and even hopefully put on a better performance than I did against Hazlett.
Yeah, your entrance music, I'm Not Afraid of Eminem. Why did you choose that song to be your entrance music?
First and foremost, huge Eminem fan. I just think the guy is. I just think the guy's awesome. Every fighter kind of deals with a little fear, but I look at fights like training sessions. So your mind can play tricks with you a little bit, during the walkout or whatever. That's the hardest part for me, the hype build-up. Once the fight starts, it's kind of like automatic pilot. But I know from everyone I've trained with all over the world, there's no reason for me to be afraid of my opponent. I'm comfortable.
So before a fight, are you kind of calm? Or are you relaxed? Are you in a good mood? What's your mindset then?
I try and relax.
Yeah.
Try and relax, close my eyes, just take some really deep breaths and try and kind of get my heart rate down because I get a little excited.
Yeah.
So I really try and relax and visualize.
Now, you mentioned that you're the best 155er in terms of jiu-jitsu. After you made that statement, what's been the feedback and response and comments you've gotten after you made that claim?
Are you going to be fighting George next? What about BJ Penn?
Right.
A couple other things. Hey, you got submitted by Danzig. How can you say that?
Right.
Yeah, I got submitted by Danzig, but that's almost 3 years ago. That's a long time ago, and I was, my 5th fight was in the UFC, not my 20th fight. So a lot of the growing I've done is inside of the UFC, not in other shows. And of course, I really got rocked with the knee before he choked me, so I don't really even remember kind of what happened. I can watch it, people tell me, but I don't really remember. It's kind of a blur. I don't think that would happen again, though. BJ Penn, he's fighting at 170 now, and even if he wasn't, you got to remember, when I was a blue belt, he was like a brown belt, and we trained together. I look up to BJ Penn, but I think my credentials are a little higher in terms of what we've accomplished recently in jiu-jitsu as opposed to MMA.
And just the fact that people are talking about you, do you feel you've become a more marketable fighter just by making that statement, being the best jiu-jitsu guy at 155?
Yeah, absolutely. I've done a lot more interviews. I'm normally a quiet person, but they like to see hyped fights. They like to see people build fights, not necessarily talk trash, but if there's a little something behind a fight, people are more apt to see something like that than a guy who's quiet and doesn't say anything. It's kind of more boring, so there's kind of the marketing and entertainment aspect of the sport. So it's got to be done, and I got no problem with it.
You mentioned hyping up fights. Have you ever fought anybody you didn't like? Has that ever occurred yet?
No ill will with my opponents. I don't get angry either. I try not to get too emotional, because then I find when you try and be too aggressive at a certain time, you might make mistakes. So.
You talked about showing all your skills. In terms of kickboxing, who do you work with most, and how has your progression been in striking?
Well, for kickboxing, I've been, when I'm in Florida, I work with Catel Cubas Bandera. He's from Brazil. He's the pro Muay Thai coach there. He was from the shoot box, the older shoot box generation of guys. He was one of Anderson's trainers, one of his training partners. Basically, when American Top Team was looking for a new coach, Anderson recommended Catel to Laborio, and that's how he met them. I'm working with Tommy. He's at Extreme Couture. He was from Dwight Fraser's gym, and I'm working with him. He's a good high-level coach, pays very good attention to detail, and has very high-level sparring partners.
I see. Now, for kickboxing, so you've been working with a bunch of different people, and I wanted to also get your opinion on the Gray Maynard-Frankie Edgar fight, the title fight at UFC 125. What were your thoughts on that fight? Who do you think won it? How would you have scored it?
Good fight. The first time I watched it, I thought Edgar had edged it out. The second time I watched it, unfortunately, I had it a draw. The second time, it really sucks to have a draw in a title fight. It really does. But unfortunately, the second time I watched it, I had it a draw, and I guess UFC sees it the same way. They gotta do the rematch. However, I think Edgar wins the rematch because he's got faster hands, and now I think he can avoid Gray's takedowns. So, you never know for sure, but I think Edgar can win a rematch.
Now, of course, you're focused on Ben Henderson, but, 1 or 2 wins away, do you think you're going to get a title shot if you get a couple wins under the band?
Well, it doesn't mean my next fight is a title shot. I don't, of course, it's the ultimate goal for any fighter, but I'm not thinking about that right now. But I know, if Henderson would have beat Pettis, he'd be fighting the winner of Edgar Maynard, so he's up there, and my fight with Jim Miller, close fight. He's a really tough guy. I got nothing but respect for the guy, but I know we fought in New Jersey, but I thought I should at least got a split decision there, and everybody knows where Jim stands. He's like 8-1 in the UFC, 19-2 overall, and he's only lost to the champion and contender who drawed the champion. So, I got some things to work on. I got some stuff to do, but I feel I'm really close, and I'm trying to improve every fight.
So finally, UFC 129 Toronto, Ben Henderson. What can fans expect on that night?
We both go forward. We both bring it. The place is going to be going crazy. Expect an exciting fight, high-paced fight. I don't really make predictions, but I'm going to do everything in my power to have my hand raised.
Very good. Well, I wish you the best of luck in that fight, and thank you very much for the time.
Thank you.